Hello everyone. I hope you are doing fine during these current time of crisis and I hope everybody is staying indoors. My name is Divyesh Shrivastava and on behalf of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce Industry, I would like you to welcome to this webinar on IP and competition law. Today's webinar will be taken by Mr. Anand Verma, who is a practicing company secretary. And in the webinar, we'll be addressing the issues which revolve around intellectual property and its relation with the competition law in India. So we'll be basically covering the Indian aspect of it. So without further delay, I would now like to hand over the session to Mr. Verma. I would request him to take the forward with the presentation from here. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dibesh. A warm welcome to all the attendees of this webinar. As all are doing fine, taking all the safety precautions, and today's webinar is on the topic IP and competition law in India. So during this webinar, I am going to tell you about the Competition Act, how it has evolved, what are the important provisions of the Competition Act, how the intellectual property and competition law with each other, along with some practical questions, practical case laws. So let's start the webinar. In 1999, there was a huge change in the economic policy of India, and that was called the LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. During that, the borders of the Indian and across the globe was changed. The Indian goods started moving out of the country with much lesser restrictions. So it was an era of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. The Indian goods reaching to the global markets. So during that time, there was a act called MRT Act, which was implemented in 1969. But after this era of globalization and privatization, the MRTP Act was not adequate to meet the changes of the globalized economy. So after much deliberation, the government of India set up a Rai committee who advised the government on different facts. So as a sequel to the report of the committee, Competition Act 2002 was enacted and it was notified in January 2003. Competition Act replaced the Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, and the same MRTP Act in 2002 became obsolete. So, and one of the essential elements of the Competition Act was establishment of Competition Commission of India, which look after the competition policies, framing, and every competition in the market. And uh, the Competition Act has a objective for which it was implemented or established. So the object of the act was to establish a commission to prevent practices having adverse effect on competition. So the commission has to watch very keenly the practices, the market players, whether they are indulging in any such practices which are having adverse effect on competition, promote and sustain competition in markets, protect interest of consumers, and to ensure freedom of trade carried on by other participants. Let's move on to the next slide. So, what is a competition? So, competition, there is a definition given by World Bank in 1999 that it is a situation of market in which firms or sellers independently strive for the buyer's patronage in order to achieve particular business objective. And what is that? The business objective is the profit, sales, or the market share. So there is a saying in the market a very long or a very uh, old saying, you can say, that is buyer is the king, because each and every market revolve around the buyer. If a buyer is not satisfied, if the buyer is not happy, then a business cannot strive. So that is why competition is necessary, because competition gives, ultimately it is the beneficial for the society. A competition is the foundation of efficiently working market system, and the process of rivalry between firms is striving to gain sales and make profits, because until and unless there is competition, there will be monopoly. So the competition main aim of competition is to reduce the monopoly and to motivate self-interest. And what is the outcome? The outcome is beneficial for the society. The consumer is the beneficial holder. Now let's move on to the next slide. There are some important features of the Competition Act. The first important feature is the anti-competitive practices. It is under section 3 of the Competition Act 2002. The second one is abuse of dominance. It is under section 4 of the Competition Act. The third is merger and acquisitions. It covers under section 5 and 6 of the Competition Act. And one of the most important is the competition advocacy. It is covered under section 49 of the Competition Act 2002. What is a competition advocacy? Competition advocacy is when whenever the central government or state government is making any policies or any law relating to the competition, then it must have make a reference to the Competition Commission of India, or has opinion of the Competition Commission. You see, the center is going to make this law on competition. So, what is your view on that? So, the Competition Commission will share its view to the center or state government, as the case may be. But one thing is to be seen here, that it is not necessary that the opinion of the Competition Commission is to be followed by the respective state government or central government, but taking opinion is very much important. So that's not anything in adverse could be implemented, or any law could be uh, drafted or made uh, which is not in tandem with the uh, competition law. So other important provisions, section 3, 4, 5, and 6, I am dealing in different slides, and I will um, give you the details about it. And as I told you, that one of the important provisions of the Competition Act is the Competition Commission of India. So what is the Competition Commission? It comprises of a chairperson and not less than two and not more than six other members to be appointed by the central government. So one chairperson, and minimum members should be two, and not the maximum members and not be more than six. So there are some eligibility criteria for the chairperson and the members. What is the eligibility criteria? Sorry. The eligibility criteria that the chairperson and members of the commission shall possess special knowledge and professional experience of not less than 15 years in international trade, economics, business, commerce, law, finance, accountancy, etc. So these are the uh, experience which a chairperson or a members of the commission must have. Not not only implementation of the Competition Act is important, even the Competition Act was amended in 2007, via the Competition Amendment Bill 2007, in view of the economic developments, because 1991 was a very long back, when the first liberalization and privatization and globalization was implemented. But after that, when markets were open, when we started trading with different countries, different contracts came into vogue. So Indian economy was exposed to the world economy. So later on, as the time passes, the even the amendment in the Competition Act was also felt. So in 2007, competition and build was introduced, and which required the Indian economy to allow domestic as well as international competition in the market. The what was the amendment about 2007? CCI to function as a regulator for preventing and regulating anti-competitive practices in the country in accordance with the Act. Notice to be given to the CCI in case of any merger or combination within 30 days, and imposition of penalty in case of failure to give notice to CCI. Means if any merger or combination as per the provisions of the Competition Act is been taken place, then within 30 days the notice of such merger or acquisition combination has to be given to the CCI. Establishment of Competition Appellate Tribunal, and which was to be headed by 3-member quasi judicial body headed by a chairman who is a judge of Supreme Court or Chief Justice of a High Court. And the act was further also amended in 2009, and it was called Competition Amendment Act 2009, which transferred the cases pending with MRTP Commission to the Competition Appellate Tribunal and National Consumer Commission. In 2009, the cases which were pending with MRTP Commission, Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Commission, were transferred to the Competition Appellate Tribunal, and some cases were transferred to the National Consumer Commission. So now let's move on to the next slide. There are some duties and functions of the commission. So these are the duties and duties of the commission: to eliminate practices having adverse effect on competition. So it is the foremost duty of the commission that if there is uh, any practices which were being undertaken in the market and which has an adverse effect, so the commission must immediately come into picture and eliminate that practice. Inquire into certain agreements and dominant position of enterprise. These agreements I will uh, let you know in the later part of the slide. And this agreement and dominant position, what are those agreements which has adverse effect on competition, and what is a dominant position. Inquiry into combinations, a reference of an issue by a statutory authority to a commission. How the commission makes inquiry if there is any matter is uh, made, or a matter came to the knowledge of the commission. Reference by commission, if commission itself gives any reference. Power to issue interim order, and competition advocacy. This I have already told you in the earlier slide. Let's move on to the next slide. Competition Act, which practices are stopped by it. So these are some of the practices which Competition Act do not allow. Price fixing. If two or more supplier fixes the same price for supplying the goods, then it will be restricted practice. You cannot fix a price, same price for supplying the goods. Bid rigging. If two or more supplier exchange sensitive information of bid, then it will also be restricted practices and against competition. You cannot indulge in bid rigging. There are cases, Ministry of Commerce, Government of India versus Mrs. Pooja Enterprises, and the second one is bid rigging by manufacturers of LPG cylinders, in which what happened in these cases, that the government called for the bid, and most of the uh, uh, manufacturers of LPG cylinder given the similar bid, making the government confused. So it was called bid rigging. Resale price maintenance. These, what I told you, that all these practices are not allowed by the Competition Act. If a producer sells the goods to the distributors on the condition that he will not sell any other price which is not fixed by producer, so it is a resale price maintenance. You cannot in force a uh, distributor or purchaser that you have to sell the price on that price only, sell the goods on that price only. Exclusive dealing, this is also restrictive practices, because if a distributor purchases the goods on the condition that supplier will not supply the goods to any other distributor, So it is exclusive dealing. Exclusivity is there. So this is not allowed. All the above activities promotes monopoly. So under Competition Act, these are void. Let's move on to the next slide. So in the earlier slide, I have told you what are the duties of the commission. So one of the important is the inquiry by the commission. So how the commission conducts the inquiry is very much important. So it is covered under section 19 of the Competition Act. That first step, CCI suo moto or on reference by information commences inquiry. Suo moto means if Competition Commission of India sees that any adverse practices are being carried on in the market or any provisions have been contravened of the Competition Act, then it takes the cognizance of the matter itself. That is called suo moto. Or if there is any reference or any information given to the commission, then it starts the inquiry. If uh, after receiving the complaint or reference or on its own motion, the CCI reviews the whole case, and if it has the opinion that yes, a prima facie case exists. What is the prima facie? Prima facie on the face of it. Then in that case, the CCI appoints the Director General to conduct investigation. So Director General, after receiving the information from the commission, start the investigation. So Director General conducts investigation and produce the report of its findings to the Competition Commission of India. So if the Director General report says that there no contravention exists, so there might be two conditions: no contravention exists or contravention exists. If no contravention exists, then also CCI has the power to invite objection from the parties. If contravention exists, then it is a clear case of inquiry, further inquiry. So CCI starts further investigation. On the basis of that, it passes the order and imposes penalty. I'll also let you know in the later part of the slide how the Competition Commission imposes penalty. Let's move on to the next slide. What is the very much important? This is what is the relationship between the competition law and intellectual property rights. If you observe it very keenly, both the act, both the competition law and intellectual property rights like Trademark Act, Copyright Act, they have very opposite set of goal. Competition law does not call for monopoly, but intellectual property says that in the Act, Trademark Act, Copyright, Patent, it says there must be monopoly to protect one's right of the inventions, of the creations, everything. So IP is protected in law. For example, patents, copyright, and trademarks, which enable people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they invent or create by striking the right balance between the interest of innovators and the wider public interest. It's what does it mean? It provides monopoly. Now there are different types of intellectual property: trademark, copyright, patent, geographical indications, trade secret, industrial design, semiconductor integrated layout design, and plant varieties. So competition law and its relation with IPR. This is very much important. A very thin line is between there. So there is a section, exemption given under section 3 subsection 5 of the Competition Act, that is anti-competitive agreement. This section envisages that nothing contained in section 3 prohibiting anti-competitive agreements shall restrict the right of any person to prevent any infringement of or to impose reasonable conditions as may be necessary for protecting any of his rights which have been or may be conferred upon him under Under which acts? Under the Copyright Act 1957, Patents Act 1970, Trademarks Act 1999, Geographical Indications of Goods Registration and Protection Act 1999, Designs Act 2000, and the Semiconductor Integrated Circuit Layout Design Act 2000. But what the CCI says, that there must be reasonable condition imposed for protection of IPR, would not attract Section 3 anti-competitive agreements. However, if there is unreasonable condition to protect the IPR, then that would contravene Section 3 of the Act. Because see, I've already told you that Competition Act does not allow monopoly, but intellectual property rights allow monopoly. But that monopoly must be fair and reasonable and must not be unreasonable. So this exemption is given under Section 3, subsection 5 of the Competition Act. There are some cases, but before that, I will let you in detail the relationship between the competition law and IPR. That intellectual property right holder is granted legal rights to protect his intellectual property. Here is where competition law plays a huge role by ensuring that such power and monopoly is restricted in the market. Both intellectual property rights and competition law have coexisted separately and peacefully since a number of years. But later it was understood that competition law can provide a boost to IPR since the market would be unpredictable, less complacent, more innovative, and grow faster due to impact of competition law. There are many theories that imply uses of competition laws in IPR issues. The first one is potential abuse of monopoly with respect to pricing, especially in developing countries. Their effective substitutes to IPR protected products may not be readily available. In developing countries, the substitute medicine, you can see substitute medicine is not available. So there is potential abuse of monopoly. If I am having some medicine, for example, we are going under crisis of uh, COVID-19, Corona, and if any country today makes a medicine or vaccine for this COVID-19 and get its patent in that country and across the world, and so we are going under huge crisis. Everyone knows that there is, as of now, today, when we are in this webinar, there is no such medicine or vaccine is available. And recently, by tomorrow, we surprisingly we know that America or Germany or Spain or China has developed one vaccine, any one of the countries, or some medicine. Then it will have the patent, it will have the monopoly, it can abuse that. It can there are many developing countries who do not have even that skill set to even try that research work for generating a medicine or vaccine for that COVID-19. So those countries would be at uh, will be exploited by the developed countries or the country which has developed that medicine. So here the this is very much important that the condition must be where if that country after generating or inventing a medicine or vaccination must have a fair and reasonable clause for the countries to whom they are selling their medicine or giving their licensing or something. With regards to business strategy and dominant abuse of IPRs, competition law provides a cushion in the form of anti-competitive agreements that I have told you in section 3, subsection 5. There was a case of Dr. Vallal Perumal and Godfrey Phillips, India Limited. So uh, it was held that in that unfair trade practice could be triggered by the misuse, manipulation, distortion, contrivance, or embellishment of ideas. It would amount to trademark misuse, and IPR holder would expose himself to an action. So this is important. There should not be unfair clauses. In India, the IPR laws like the Patent Act or the Copyright Act or Trademarks Act have overriding powers over the Competition Act in matters related to any abuse of IPR. Sorry. If an anti-competitive result arises from the exercise of the rights by the patent holder, the Patent Amendment Act 2005 provides for issue of licenses to stop such anti-competitive activity. The role of Competition Commission of India is nil in this respect. They cannot do anything. Instead, an amalgamation of the two acts can be made where tie-in arrangements prohibiting or revoking license in case of any infringed competing technology, patent pooling, royalty payment, measures to be taken after the patent has expired, and so on. Competition law needs to override the IPR Acts when it comes to handling any market abuse of the letter. Competition Act exempts merger and dominant abuse in the market. Such exemptions should be made with leniency and not arbitrary. So we also have to look that the exemption which were provided in the Competition Act, it must it it must be with leniency, but not it must not be arbitrary. We can say that despite the fact that IPR and competition law are seen as overlapping fields of law with conflicting purposes, but it is prominent for them to work in tandem to maintain balance in the market. As I told you that IPR on one hand allows IPR holders to exercise exclusivity over their work, whereas competition law on the other hand restricts any kind of monopoly in the market by holding restraints as earlier mentioned. Thus, in a way, it can be said IPR holders abuse their position by creating dominance in the market. However, leaving aside conflicting interests, there are other ways where IPR and competition law are in sync with each other. How? By creating and protecting an idea or expression. IPR has carved a niche in the market by introducing diverse products and services, which only enhances competition. This competition would involve creating the best product in the market in terms of innovation, price, consumer growth, to name a few. We cannot say friends or foes. A dichotomy between IPR and competition law cannot be changed, but ensuring their coexistence is the only way forward. So these are the relationship between the IPR and competition law. Uh, Out of these three cases, I have discussed about Vallal Perumal and others was the Godfrey Phillips India Limited. In in international agreements also, there are some clauses which deals with the relations between the intellectual property rights and competition law. Paris Convention Article 10 bis unfair competition. The countries of the Union are bound to ensure to nationals of such countries effective protection against unfair competition. Any act of competition contrary to honest practices in industrial or commercial matters constitutes an act of unfair competition. So these three must be prohibited. What are the things? These are given here clause 3. All acts such as nature as to create confusion by any means whatever with the establishment of goods or the industrial or commercial activities of a competition. This must be competitive. This must be prohibited. False allegations in the course of trade of such a nature as to discredit the establishment, goods, or the industrial or commercial activities of a competitor. Indications or allegations, the use of which in course of trade is liable to mislead the public as to nature, the manufacturing process, characteristics, suitability for the purpose and quantity of the goods. Also, you have heard about trucks, related aspects of intellectual property right. There are also provisions uh, which So in compulsory licensing, it is a very important case, Bayer Corporation versus Union of India. So on March 9, 2012, the Indian Patent Office granted its first compulsory license to Natco Pharma Limited for producing generic version of Bayer Corporation's patented medicine Nexavar, sorafenib tosylate, which is used in the treatment of liver and kidney cancer, while multinational giant was selling the drug at INR 2.8 lakh for a month's course. Natco promised him at the price of 3% of the total value, that is the INR 8800 of what was charged by Bayer. Bayer further moved to Intellectual Property Appellate Tribunal and also filed appeal challenging compulsory license granted to Natco by the controller. The IPAB, Intellectual Property Appellate Board, dismissed the appeal and confirmed the grant of compulsory license, stating that it has dealt with each of the issue in detail in view of the significance of the order of compulsory license made in India for the first time. So the third one is compulsory licensing, and the India provided its first compulsory licensing to the NATCO. And the fourth one is control of anti-competitive practices. So these are covered in the TRIPS, trade related aspects of intellectual property right. Let's move on to the next slide. So there is also a provisions of SAP, and there are standards set under the technological innovations. So who set this in the standards? What is SAP and FRAND? I will let you know. So SAP is standard essential patents is a patent which can properly mapped onto a mandatory industry standard, such as a product which conforms to that standard infringes the patent. SAPs are common in the mobile telephony and telecommunication industry, a sector which is highly standardized due mainly to the need for interoperability between mobile devices. And what is FRAND licensing? If a patent is declared essential to a standard, the owner agrees that the patent is subject to FRAND declaration. That is, the licenses to SAP will be granted on a fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory basis. Generally speaking, licenses offered are to a portfolio of SAPs and state licenses fee for use of patents in the portfolio. So it is very much important to understand what FRAND is and who set this standard. Standards are set by SSO, Standard Setting Organization, the body of legal and economic literature addressing what FRAND means is substantial and diverse. We can say that the most direct interpretation, the FRAND is a voluntary contract made by patent owner to an SSO. FRAND is a voluntary contract, and what is the meaning of FRAND is fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory. So FRAND is a voluntary contract made by patent owner to an SSO, standard setting organization. A patent owner can choose to preserve his or her right to exclude and can decline membership to an SSO, or may decline to license its SEP, standard essential patents, based on FRAND terms, in which case the SSO is free to adopt a standard that does not include the patented technology of the patent owner. Therefore, the contractual meaning of FRAND commitment can begin with the interpretation of the wording of the contract and the recognition of the underlying motivation behind the contract. Most SSOs, standard setting organization, IPR policies, they clearly state that one of the main purpose of the FRAND commitment is to ensure access to the standardized technology as well as to fairly compensate the contributors to the standardized technology. For example, the International Telecommunications Union ITU IPR policy states that securing access to SAPs, uh, standard essential patents, is the sole objective of the code of practice. Similarly, the European Telecommunication Standard Institute states that purpose of its policy is to reduce the risk that the investment in the preparation of standards could be wasted as a result of an essential IPR. Being unavailable, and IPR holders should be adequately and fairly rewarded for the use of their IPRs. So generally in the technological environment, these terms are used SSO is the standard setting organization to set the standards. SAP is the standard essential patent, and FRAND is fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory. These are the some cases of the with SAP and FRAND licenses. Philips versus Bhagirathi, Ericsson and Micromax case, Ericsson and Intex case, Ericsson and Lava International, Ericsson and Xiaomi Technology, Ericsson versus Best IT World India Private Limited, Bringo versus ZTE, Dolby litigation. Anti-competitive agreements. Under Section 3, Subsection 1, the Act prevents any enterprise or association from entering into any agreement which causes or likely to cause an appreciable adverse effect on competition. That is AAEC. Please keep in mind, Section 3, Subsection 1 prevents any enterprise or association from entering into any agreements. This is very much important part of the Competition Act, which causes or is likely to cause an appreciable adverse effect on competition. That is AAEC within India. The Act clearly envisages that an agreement which is contravention of Section 3, Subsection 1 shall be void. So how we can determine AAEC, appreciable adverse effect on competition? The Act provides that any agreement including cartels, which directly or indirectly determines purchase or sale price, limits production, supply, technical development, or provision of services market, results in bid rigging or collusive bidding. So it shall be presumed to have an, if these are the three characteristics are present, then it is presumed that the to have an appreciable adverse effect on competition in India. The exemption which I was telling in is exemption given to the, that is the exception, joint ventures entered with aim to increase efficiency in production, supply, distribution, acquisition, and control of goods or services will not be termed as anti-competitive agreements under Section 3, Subsection 1 of the Competition Act. Let's move on to the next slide. There are two types of anti-competitive agreements. The first one is horizontal and the second one is vertical. What is the horizontal agreements? Are the arrangements between enterprises at the same stage of production. Means between wholesaler to wholesaler, between retailer to retailer, between distributor to distributor. And this is covered under Section 3, Subsection 3 of the Competition Act. And what are the main ingredients? The cartels engaged in identical or similar trade of goods or provision of services which directly or indirectly determines purchase or sale price, limits or controls production supply, says the market or source of production, directly or indirectly results in bid rigging or collusive bidding. If these four elements are present, it is said that it is the horizontal agreement has been done by the parties. So under the Act, horizontal agreements are placed in a special category and are subject to adverse presumption of being anti-competitive. And this is also called per se rule, that if these ingredients are present, then it is anti-competitive. This implies that if there exists a horizontal agreement under Section 3, Subsection 3 of the Act, then it will presume that such an agreement is anti-competitive and it has AAEC. What is AAEC? Appreciable adverse effect on competition. Let's move on to the next slide. This I have told you about the horizontal agreement. Let's move on to the next slide. Cartels are also engaged in cartels are also engaged in same or similar products. There is a case of Builders Association of India versus Cement Manufacturer Association, and bid rigging or collusive bidding is also covered under this. LPG cylinders manufacturers, the case I've already told you in earlier slide. Information exchange. See, if there is a in this slide you can see that a company sales personnel and a competitor sales personnel, and both they are discussing the price. Retail, the company salesperson is saying retail price is too cheap, why don't we increase the wholesale price by 5%? The competitor salesperson is saying that yeah, I agree to that. So this is not allowed. This is anti-competitive. The second slide says that how the uh, company and the competitor salesperson are talking to each other about the territory. East district of a city is our territory. Do not sell your product to our territory. Okay. So the competitor is saying if West is our territory, so do not sell in our your product in our territory. So this is also not allowed. It is anti-competitive. Vertical agreements are those agreements which are entered between two or more enterprises means between wholesaler and retailer, between manufacturer and distributor. So, what are the important ingredients? Exclusive supply agreement, exclusive distribution agreement, refusal to deal, resale price maintenance, and time arrangements. So, if these five ingredients are present, then it is called as vertical agreements. However, as per the Competition Act, per se rule as applicable for horizontal agreements are not apply for vertical agreements. So vertical agreements per se is not anti-competitive or does not have AAEC, appreciable adverse effect on competition. So this is one case of Sri Samsher Kataria versus Honda CL Cars India Limited. What happens is that the original equipment certain conditions that the purchaser or the distributor has to purchase their goods from certain from original equipment manufacturers only or suppliers only. So this is termed as anti-competitive because all the ingredients were present there. It is so all the ingredients of exclusive supply, exclusive distribution, and refusal to deal was present. Abuse of dominant position. Section 4 of the Act prevents any enterprise or group from abusing its dominant position. The Act also provides circumstances under which there is abuse of dominant position. So, Section 4, Subsection 2 prevents following acts resulting in abuse of dominant position, imposition of unfair or discriminatory condition, limit or restrict production of goods or services, technical or scientific development relating to goods, indulge in practices resulting in denial of market access, make conclusion of contract subject to acceptance by the other parties, uses dominant position in one market to enter into relevant market. So if all these are if these of these acts will result in abuse of dominant position. So you cannot enjoy your monopoly or you can enjoy your dominant position at the cost of other competitors. Let's move on to the next slide. There are some important case laws of dominant position. That Manju Jain versus Hiranandani Hospital, Mumbai. What happened in this case is that Manu Jain during her pregnancy, she was referring to the doctors of Hiranandani Hospital. So this lady has has a contract with some company for stem cell, umbilical stem cell, but the Hiranandani hospital has arrangement with another company. So at the 11th hour, when the delivery time reaches, the Hiranandani hospital says that you have to take this stem cell sources from our client only and not with whom you have made the contract. So at the 11th hour the lady has to change the hospital and to face the hardship. Some third party after getting all this information filed a case. So Competition Commission of India given the judgment against the Hiranandani Hospital, but the Competition Appellate Tribunal uh, uh, was not satisfied with the view of the uh, Competition Commission and is reversed and it reversed the order. The second case was CCI imposed fine of INR 522 million against BCCI. So In this case, what happened in this case is the Competition Commission of India imposed a 52 fine on the Board of Control for the abuse of its dominant position in the organization of professional domestic cricket leagues or events in the country. CCI assurance to broadcasters of the Indian Premier League that it will not organize, sanction, recognize, or support another professional domestic Indian T20 competition that is competitive to IPL for a sustained period of 10 years. Similarly, these two cases are also on the dominant position. Sajukta Associates Private Limited versus All India Organization of Chemists and Druggists, Coal India Limited versus Sponge Iron Manufacturers Association of Association. Contravention of Competition Act and its consequences. So I've told you that the CCI has the power of imposing fine and penalty. So what is the system? I will let you know in this slide. If the infringement of anti-competitive agreements, then penalties of up to 10% of turnover or 3 times cartelized profit. Who is liable? Enterprise who enter into anti-competitive agreement, directors or officials are also liable. If there is abuse of dominance, penalties of up to 10% of turnover, enterprises abusing dominant position, directors, officials also liable. Failure to notify a reportable combination, then fine of up to 1% of combined turnover or assets. And who is liable? Persons or enterprise, directors or officials also liable. Failure to comply with directions of CCI, fines and or imprisonment as prescribed. Compensation can also be awarded by appellate tribunal for loss, damage suffered by any person. Person failing to comply, directors, officials also liable. So there are some Supreme Court cases. The Supreme concepts of competition law. So you could when go through this, then the slide will be uploaded for you. So anti-competitive practices are the cases. Rajasthan Cylinders was Union of India, going to Supreme Court, and then that's abuse of dominance. This this is one of the important cases. After inquiries spanning for 6 years, he was found to have abused dominance in web search and web search advertising services in India by indulging in such bias, by displaying and placing its own commercial flight unit with links to Google specialization search options, users of additional choice. Most importantly, CCI noted that Google's access to large amounts of big data from personalized search histories could lead to it leveraging its position in vertical markets such as Google Maps, Google News, etc. through data analytics. The penalty of rupees 135.86 crores pales in comparison to the fine of 2.7 billion levied by EC a year earlier for such bias, and the record fine of 5 billion related to the Android investigation. So this is the case of Supreme Court on this. This is the case of the CCI on abuse of dominance. And one of the important thing you must know that now appeal of the Competition Act earlier was going to Competition Appellate Tribunal Compact. Now it is going to National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. So, as per the amendment brought to Section 410 of the Companies Act 2013 and by Section 172 of the Finance Act 2017, with effect from 26 May 2017, appeals against the decision and order passed by CCI, Competition Commission of India, are now referred to NCLAT, National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, instead of Compact, Competition Appellate Tribunal. So, thank you for attending this webinar. Uh, and I wish all of you are, again, I am just reminding you that please be safe, please stay at home, and take all precautions. Thank you.